You need to worry about hydration. Hydration. When we exert ourselves, when we have muscular exertion, we burn something called glycogen, all right, which is a sugar component. When that component is burned, it releases heat, it releases energy. That's what overheats us. And the same time that's happening, it's burning off fluid, right? What are the ways that our body cools us off? Sweat. And how does sweat work? Sweat can't cool us off by taking some of the heat out of our pores, but the big one is the evaporation of that sweat, all right? Having the environment evaporate that sweat, taking heat with it. So if we're in a situation where we're wearing a lot of stuff and the sweat's just hanging on us and it's not evaporating, it's not helping us in the least bit, right? When we overexert ourselves, we can use up to 3 liters of fluid in sweat in a couple of hours, believe it or not. Especially the bigger you are, the less shape you're in, you're gonna sweat more, all right? Another big component of being ready for this thing, you know, and I'm not Mr. Universe, but being in shape, being available to be able to say, hey, if I gotta haul this stuff out there, if I gotta survive out there, I need to be able to do it physically. Okay? A rule of thumb on a daily basis, I'm not talking about here, I'm talking about a Tiger, a Baptist, wherever you work. You guys work at Tiger?
He doesn't.
Okay, wherever you're at, if you're drinking fluid, and by the time you go do your first voiding, your first urination, it's yellow, just keep on consistently drinking fluid. I'm not saying pound it down. Once you clear out your urine, and your urine's kind of clear, then you can taper down, right? You start pounding fluid. Like, for example, last night, maybe some of you said, hey, you know what? I'm going to be exerting myself today, so I'm going to start drinking fluid. Could you dilute yourself?
Yeah.
Could you cause a problem? Absolutely. Absolutely. How much does a gallon of water weigh?
Too much.
8 pounds. A gallon of water weighs approximately 8 pounds. Okay, so we're talking about 8 pounds of water per person per day. In a group of us of 11, 12, and let's say we're out here for a week, we're going out here like a ton of water, you can't do it. So what happens is you need to make your daily activity attainable to the water consumption that you have at hand. So if you come out here and you have a water source and you have a good fire and you have equipment to boil water, then you know what, you can exert yourself quite a bit because water is not an issue, right? But if you're in a situation like here, is water available here?
Yeah.
There is, yeah.
Yeah, there's water available here. It might not be right here, but we can find a lake and boil water and you're good to go. You need to be able to familiarize yourself with the area. But there's other ways for us to acquire water, right? Now, commercial ways. There's tons of commercial ways, right? We can buy chlorine tablets, right? Commercial, you buy them. It'll have instructions on there per a certain amount of water. Apply a chlorine tablet, let it dissolve, all right? There's filtered straws that are rather expensive and they don't last very long, but they'll filter most bacteria and viruses out of water, right? And it works on double carbon filtration, and they're rather expensive, but again, they don't do large volume. Again, boiling water. What are the rules of thumb of boiling water? Let's say I go now to the lake that's just a little bit past here, and I pick up, you know, a couple of gallons of water, and I come back to my campsite, and can I start downing that water right away? No. What do I run the risk of acquiring?
Bacterial infection.
Bacteria, specifically cholera, different protozoa, and all those things equal is diarrhea, severe abdominal pain, fever, misery, right? So the rule of thumb is if we can boil water in this altitude, right? Because at a higher altitude, things are different, but if we're talking about this altitude, sea level, if you can get water to boil at a good boil for over a minute, you should be able to kill 99% of the bacteria, cholera, protozoa, E. coli, anything that might be in the water. So that's a good rule of thumb. If you're at a higher altitude, for whatever reason, it's just 3 minutes. It's going to take a little bit more because of the oxygen concentration in the atmosphere. Right? It's going to take a little bit more. So boil water at a good boil for over a minute, you should be good to go. All right. Now let's talk about the event of us not being able to get to a water source, and we need to start thinking of how can we get water from where we're at right here. All right. Anybody have any ideas? Like if right now I said, hey, I want you to be able to think of a way to get me some water here.
Dig.
Rain? Okay, rainwater, absolutely. We can set something up in the contingency that it rains. Right? We're going to build a solar still. That's what we're going to do in a couple minutes here. We're going to actually build a solar still, either 2 or 1. We're going to show you how it's done. We'll show you how it functions. Now, is the solar still going to give us tons of water? No, but it'll give us some moisture and some water that we can have on a daily basis. If you have multiple people, what would be a good idea? Multiple solar stills. All right? We'll talk about that in a minute. Another good way is plastic bags around greenery. We take a big chunk of these trees, like this wax myrtle right here at the base of this cypress. We can bend that down and bag it tie up pretty good with some tape if you have it, or some paracord. Throughout the day, the condensation is going to cause it to drip into the bag. The actual weight of the water will make the bag drip and make its own container, and you'll be able to get a couple ounces of water that daily. All right, so just bagging the tree is an important concept. As simple as having some plastic bags or a tarp. All right, anything good for those stills? All right, so we talked about hydration needs. We talked about the importance of being hydrated. Today specifically, guys, if you see that you're not feeling well, you know, hey, I'm headachy, you realize you're not sweating, let me know. All right, we have equipment here where we can help you. We'd rather not have to use it, but we have stuff on us. You know, we are paramedics. We have stuff on us that we can help in the event that there is, you know, heat exhaustion is incredibly important. Heat exhaustion is incredibly real. You can die from heat stroke. Real easy. I've seen it. You know, you don't realize you're overexerting yourself. You realize you stop sweating. You're not evaporating your body heat anymore. You're just accumulating heat. Your brain starts to cook. You seize and you're done. All right, and then you got to take that into account. Having a seizure from heat stroke on date corners is a different animal than having a seizure from heat stroke out here. Who's going to carry you out of here? Maybe all of us can figure out a way to get you out, but to get you out to where? Do we all have phone service out here right now?
No.
Yes, we do. Right now we do. 3G we have out here, but that's not always the case. Let's say I do have phone service. We should all have. Right now, if I call 911, are they going to pull in here? Our firefighters are going to be like, yeah, we'll be right there. Where are you?
In between two trees.
Hopefully, if you have a GPS, right? We can pull a GPS out or say, hey, we'll try to get them out to the main road on the trail. And, you know, forestry or park rangers will fly out and try to get us out. But we need to keep that in mind. So be very aware of yourself. Don't overexert yourself. There's no need. Especially today, but more especially in a survival situation, right? Don't go crazy and say, hey, you know, I got to take care of shelter, water, fire right now. You got to pace yourself. Yeah, those are priorities, but pace yourself out. A thing that I love, and I watch it all the time, and I laugh, is Bear Grylls. What does he do? Have you guys all seen the show? What does he do from one point to the next point?
Running.
Running. The guy is running. Cameraman, they've interviewed the cameraman. They're like, dude, the guy just runs. He just runs. Is that a smart guy? I'm not taking away from the guy. I'm wearing his pants for Christ's sake. But the guy is a British Special Forces, you know, elite Navy SEAL type deal. All right. It's just for the show. It's dramatic effect. There's no need for you to say, okay, we gotta go get water. Let's run over there and get water. All right, I got to carry the water back, run back. Oh, look, this nice steep terrain. I'm gonna slide down it. Work smarter, not harder. All right, running through here to there, you're gonna find yourself with a broken ankle, or stepping on a snake, or doing something stupid. Pace yourself out, and you're burning up what? Energy, water, calories that you need.
Is that tiger?
All right, so take everything slow, relax, you know, work smarter, not harder. We're gonna dig out a hole in the ground. We're gonna place a container in there. Hopefully my brother brought that for. There it is. Now, it could be a bottle of water that you have that you've cut in half. It could be a bowl, whatever you find. It could be a can you find out here. You're gonna throw it in the fire for a little bit, clean it out. You know, let the fire kill any germs that might be living inside of it, right? We're gonna dig a hole in the ground, preferably square or circular, small enough, but nice and deep, you know, maybe a foot or so. Out here, are we going to get a foot or so? No. Why not? We got coral right under us, right? Limestone. We might get a little bit out here because there's years and hundreds of years of pine needles that have been accumulating along with dirt and etc. But we're going to make a hole. We're going to do this together. We're going to make a hole. We're going to place this container in the bottom of the hole. All right? Once we do that, it's very important if we got some greenery. Same concept as bagging a tree, putting a bag around the tree for condensation. We're going to get some nice live greenery, like these needles, some of these branches with green leaves on it. We're going to put it around it, all right? If you have available lake water or any water, wet the area. What's another moisture we could use to wet the area?
Urine.
Urine. Urinate in there. Right, not in here, but in the area. All right?
Yeah.
We're going to urinate in the area. All right? What we're going to do after that is we're going to get our bag. We're going to fasten it over the hole and seal it around the holes with dirt and rocks. So we made a little oven underground. What's going to happen in there? Condensation from the day's sun is going to evaporate water off the greenery, and the actual moisture of the earth, it's going to go up into the bag, and then in the center of that bag over this container, we're going to place a small rock. So the bag deviates towards this container. We're going to do this, so don't start thinking, I got to remember this, we're going to actually do it. All right? As the condensation accumulates on the plastic bag, it's going to drip down towards the rock that's on the outside that's pushing this bag down, and it's going to drip into the center container. The more greenery, you know, the more moisture there's down there. So if you start digging and you're in an area where all of a sudden you're feeling wet mud and dirt, great, that's awesome. Right? And is there a problem that we're urinating? Are we going to get urine in here? No. We're getting the moisture, the fluid portion of urine that's going to condense and come in here. The solid waste products of the urine, urea, ammonia, all that nasty stuff is going to stay in the ground. We're only going to get the pure. If you have salt water, can we use salt water for that? Absolutely. The salt is going to stay in the ground. We're going to get fresh water out. Might it taste a little salty? You might get a tiny tinge. If it tastes too salty, it's no good. All right, salt water is no good. It's going to make you hypernutrient. It's going to increase your sodium. It's going to make things worse for you. It's going to dehydrate you quicker. All right. Keep in mind, water follows sodium. I'm not going to get, you know, anatomy and physiology on you. He knows how I can get. Water follows sodium. So what happens when you eat a big salty meal? How do you feel?
Loaded.
Maybe not you young guys, but I feel like, oh my God, what did I eat? And you're thirsty, and you start peeing like crazy, right? That's because there's a lot of sodium influx into your system. And now water's following you. Sodium is going out into your tissue. Water follows it. An elderly person that takes a lot of sodium, they swell up. They get that edema. So, you know, keep that in mind. If you start tasting something salty in your survival situation, you don't want it. Especially water. Don't ever drink salt water out of the ocean. You're better off drinking urine. All right, urine is sterile at least. When we urinate, it's a sterile fluid. Believe it or not, it does have waste product in it, but it should not have in a healthy human being bacteria or virus in it. So you're better off drinking urine than you are drinking salt water. All right. Any questions so far? So we have a couple of options. Boiling water, and we talked about how we should boil water. 160 degrees for over a minute. Can we measure that in a survival situation? No. But we know that if it's boiling and we've gone further than a minute, we should be good. Most of the protozoa color and everything are gone. All right. If you really want to be sure, and you do have a way to measure it, and you can boil for 30 minutes, and then you're 100% sure that water is completely sterile. There's no doubt about it. I don't care where you got it. Okay. 30 minutes at 160 degrees, it's all gone, no matter what. All right. We can bag trees. Now, mind you, this isn't going to be your 1 gallon per person per day we talked about, right? There's going to be some moisture to keep you going. So if you're in a situation where you're down to this amount of moisture, that you're only be able to get some from your solar still or from the bag you set up, or it hasn't rained in a couple of days, so the bucket and cans you set up or tarps that you set up haven't accumulated water yet, then you know what? Today's a day where I'm just going to have to relax a little bit. Do a little bit of work on my shelter, make sure my fire's still good, a little bit of moisture, and conserve energy. Because you dehydrate, you're done. All right, how many of you guys are thirsty right now? So what does that mean?
Majority dehydrated.
We're dehydrated. Right? You can't avoid that.
You find 2 trees. Okay, you make it tight. You go underneath or over, whatever you want. And you have a hitch, right? You come around, you do the same thing over here. You have another hitch. Now look what happens. I have 2 hitches, right? My main rope is coming through the middle. So if I just pull on this like this and pull on my hitches, it gets tighter. You see? Because my main rope, the hitches are on the back end side of the rope. My main rope is getting tighter. Then I come and I do another one. You can do another hitch here with a knot. Come over here and tie it like this. Hold on to it and tie it like this. You can make a safety knot. You can do a 3rd hitch in a knot. But now I have a pretty tight system where I can build. You can make it even tighter. If there's a couple of you, you can tighten it. And you have a system here where you can build a lean-to. You can hang if you have a tarp. You can build your shelter. Whereas before maybe you didn't have. Remember what we talked about at the beginning? To conserve your energy. It's a lot easier to do this 2 minutes. And now you have something where you can actually make it, if you want to do it, you can just make it tighter and tighter. It's up to you. And that's using the 2 types of knots that we just learned.
We secure to a tree. All I have here is a clove hitch with a safety. Right? Now let's say I want to go around another tree. Come closer. I'm going to get my carabiner through here. This is right on the paperwork. It shows you how to use it. So I'm going to make a bite through my carabiner. So now my carabiner is incorporated in the system. Right? All I did was make a bite through it. All I did is make a bite through it and incorporate it in the rope now. Now I can go around. Just give me your finger. Use your finger. I can go around here. Tighten up here as much as I want. And it locks up right there. And that's it. Quick. Super quick. I can tighten as much as I want. I'm going to pull it, right? I can tighten up real taut and I just bite it in there and that's it. It's not going to go anywhere. Or I can actually hook this to the tree, use it as my anchor point, and then do the same concept. And tighten as much as I want. Hey, if the day's been going, your tarp is going down, let's tighten it up a little. Give it some attention.
Same idea with that. You can tighten it as it goes.
So you have a rudimentary way that you can practice, or if you want to be prepared, which is what we're talking about here, being prepared, some equipment you might be investing in that's very inexpensive. All right? Thank you, Bill.
Okay, the next knot is going to be really simple. Have you ever had a situation where you have your rope? I know George has this issue all the time. Your rope is not long enough.
So sexually.
Well, this is a sheep bend, and it allows you to tie 2 ropes together. It can be a chain and a rope. It can be whatever. Okay, 2 pieces of rope
or an even rope.
Uneven rope, whatever you might have. Okay, this rope and this rope. So let's pretend that this is 1 rope and this is 1 rope. This is going to be a really easy one. You make a loop. You come again underneath. You just come over under and along the same hole. And now you have both ropes are tied. And I'll show you really quick. Again, easy. Loop. Go underneath it with your other rope. Under it. And now you're still holding this rope, right? Just make it up. It's not even... One thing that when you work with ropes, try not to let yourself like do this. Look. Right? Work with a rope that you can handle.
This is not a very easy knot, so
don't let your rope dictate what you're doing. Look, underneath, right? Look at it. Look how I'm holding my knot. Underneath, I have control of this knot. Underneath, like here, and now same rope. Who's got it? Who doesn't? You got it?
thanks. You can make double safeties
underneath.
now. You can make a safety here. Okay. You can make a safety here.
Do me a favor. Hold it here. Hold this knot here.
Now you're in business.
Yeah.
That's not going anywhere. That is a perfect Beckett bend. Go sheep bend or Beckett bend.
Give yourself.
No, like I said, if you guys sit in an office all day, I don't know what all of you do. I used to tie rope around the handles of my drawers. I had paracord there, and I would just tie knots. I was gonna go to power school, but I was into it. Tie knots. It helps.
It's easy. I'm gonna do a simple. Everybody know how to do a slip knot? Simple slip knot. You make a bend. You come in from if the bend is here, your rope comes in through the other side. There's a simple slip knot because. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. There's also one way, just grab it.
That's a way that they teach us at the academy. It might be a lot easier for you.
You just hold your rope, make a loop,
grab it and pull.
You're gonna put it on the inside, go around, and now grab this end. You gotta hold one end up. That's the problem. Hold one end up, go under it, around, and now I grab this and I pull it through the loop. So this is what's called the figure 8 on a bike, because you're gonna do the rope doubled up. It's gonna double up the strength of the rope, and it's gonna.
Now this is a complicated knot So, I mean, no, but I'm going to show you something here. Which is with a Swiss seat. And if you look, it's got 3 sides on 3 pieces of rope here and 3 here, and 2 on the other side. And what you can use this for is harness, or what they call what is it? Swedish sheet or hasty harness. Hasty harness is actually what you just lift this in. You have it in front of you, and then you can rappel down. They can take you up. It's a very good knot to know. Okay, this is never gonna go. No, I don't think that's it. The thing with this one is that it gets complicated because when you have to bring up the knot, the loop on the other side. So you have a loop. Again, it all starts on how you hold your rope. You have a loop, you come back around, you bring it around, and what you're doing is you're putting through not the end of it, but a bite that you're making here in the middle, and you're swinging it around. And I really like my knots to look pretty. So if you look, 3 and 2, 3 and 2, and there's your seat. You hold it like this. Look at me. You come and you grab it, and you turn your arm, and now you have. Look at this.
Right. Okay.
So you grabbed it, and now this is what you got. You got your working end,
Now turn.
and you got your running end.
Turn your hand.
Okay.
And grab this.
Look how I'm controlling. I'm not like this. Look.
Pull it through.
So I'm like this. I come around, and I'm making a bite. So here I'm leaving this. I'm making a bite. And I work it. I work it
Got that right here.
because I want.
Okay, you're biting in half though.
Oh, okay. Got
And
it.
I take this piece
Okay.
that's sticking out.
Bring it around. Bring it around. Yeah, that's your bite.
That's it.
Bring it around.
Around.
And all the way. Now, turn your hand.
And I gotta tell you guys,
Oh, yeah.
it's very difficult to do these knots in the paracord. It really is. So if you guys can do it on that, you can do it on this.
Now, what's a really important concept to understand, if you can do this on a paracord, which is fine, and you get this hasty harness done on a paracord, it's going to hold 6 of us on there. Because this is 550 with 1 strand. Now we've tripled it or doubled it, so we're looking at over 1,000 pounds of weight capacity. All right, now it's not going to be the most comfortable if you're sitting on it, because look at the size of it. All right, so if you're looking at rappelling rope, harness ropes, dynamic or static rope, whatever you're using, you know, this is a really good knot to learn. Not a priority. If I were to say there was a priority today, it would be the clove hitch.
Clove hitch is extremely
The
important.
clove hitch, maybe the bowline, you know, but the clove hitch for sure.
The sheet span is pretty important if you're playing around with different sizes or if you don't have enough rope or something. I'll show you something really quick. You guys don't need to learn this one. Talking about you saw this yesterday.
I'll turn it on this one.
Yeah.
Talking about harnessing. Instead of you got to rappel, or somebody's got to. This is for real.
All the way
Somebody's
around.
got to pick you up. You don't have a harness.
Turn and grab it.
Got it.
All right, now remember, we're gonna go through this loop now, and grab these 2 pieces. So get through this loop now. No. Let go of this. No. Go with this hand.
Okay.
Pull this through here.
Okay.
Over. And now stress.
And now you stress it.
There you go.
You can see it's.
See, once I'm gonna show you with my hands. You got this
Tie it
one all
off
the way,
here.
right?
You want to use.
So
Got it.
now when I got it here,
Slip
I'll just
knot,
hold
whatever
the
you
whole
want to
thing.
do. Is tie it
So
here,
I'm holding it.
Right.
and right here you put your carabiner,
Got it. Then you go into the other
the
one.
middle.
Okay.
and now you have a harness that you can use.
Like that.
Quick, easy harness that you can use.
The best thing about the fact that we're out here is that the cypress trees and the pine trees are usually pretty close together because of water sources, right? So those 2 trees right there are close together. They're ideal, however, they're very weak. They're saplings. So you want to go to 2 sustainable trees. We found these 2 mature trees with a cypress tree or a pine tree, I'm not sure which one it is, I think it's a cypress, that has collapsed behind it, so it has a nice back wall for you. All right, and we're going to go use that over there. 2 trees that are standing relatively close together. All right, it's already giving you the initial structure. We're going to use rope in this case, which you could use in the event that the trees around you are too significantly large for you to cut down. It burns too much energy, you don't have the equipment. All right, you're not going to necessarily carry an axe or a chainsaw with you in a survival situation. All right, if you're going to use rope like this, what I do suggest is you try to make some indentations in the tree so the rope can sit in there a little bit. So maybe with a knife or with the actual rope itself, burn it into the tree a little bit so it has a little bit of a divot where it can sit it'll be a lot less apt to slide down on you. In this situation, again, this just happens to be here. Obviously, we didn't set this up. We have a tree that's fallen back, so we have a nice secure back shelter. We probably want to clean all this out. I cleaned some of it out again without damaging the tree line, and use this area this way. Okay, if we start building back this way, so we find some saplings that we can lay across here as a cross section, and then we can start filling the beams with the palm fronds. In a survival situation, we use the live ones. Okay, one, because when we have a fire going, we're less apt to catch fire, our structure, and they're gonna be more flexible to interweave if you want to, if you have time. All right. So once we have the cross beam set, we can interweave, and we have a little entrance with some space and some bedding and some security on one side where we can feel more secure psychologically. Hey, I got like a nice structure here that I can lean up against and snuggle up against, and I know it's secure, it's solid, it's not just some palm fronds. So this is ideal. When we're going into a situation where we're looking for a shelter like this, before we make this a shelter, make sure nothing made it a shelter first. Make sure there's no snakes up in a hole. If there is a hole and you say, hey, this is ideal, it's worth the risk. Make an intelligent risk. Don't go sticking your hand in there. Go get a stick, palm fronds, your machete, jam it in there. If you need to light your fire, take your fire scare, whatever it is in there out in a safe manner. So once you find your area, this is ideal. You have a lot of ground here. You can make entry this way, and it's also a good idea to maybe have an extra exit. You know, if something's coming in this way, i.e. a leopard, not a leopard, well, you can have bobcats out here. You can have a Florida panther, you have a bear. Just coming in this way, because it feels a warmth, it senses you, have a way to get out. You know, and really, this is not a really permanent structure. You can just bang out of there if you need to get out and punch out. Okay? So let's try to find, if you guys can find some saplings that are already loose or on the ground that we can set up here, at least rudimentarily, and we can start weaving.
There's plenty of these dead ones around, like these that are falling. If you look around,
a little more.
right?
A little more. 12 people. And look, we haven't gathered much. And when we gather, we're already beat up. All right, we're dealing with the heat. The heat's working against us. Time. All right. So if you're in a cold situation, you can line the back of your shelter with it, and with your fire anywhere in the front, the heat is going to go around you and radiate back into your shelter. Okay, which is going to help you. At night, believe it or not, can we experience hypothermia in the state of Florida, in southern Florida during the summer? Absolutely. It might not be profound hypothermia, but any temperature less than our body heat is going to sap heat from us. So if you're out in the ocean or you're in your pool and your pool's at a balmy, whichever it is, 90 degrees, can you become hypothermic there after an extended period of time? Absolutely. It's less than 98.6 degrees in body temperature, so it's going to take away from your body heat. At 94 to 95 degrees, we start experiencing serious symptoms. So in a cold time out here, my brother, who's been here forever, has experienced 40s and 30s out here with frost. So have I. Not as many times as him, but frost. You wake up, there's frost on your tent. You come out here and you're wearing thermals. Who wears thermals in the Everglades? Sometimes it gets cold out here. So if you're in that situation, you need to make an account for that. You need to think about that, because you can experience hypothermia here. All right? This is something that can help you with that. It's going to reflect your body heat. It's going to reflect the temperature of the fire and line your shelter. Not to mention incredibly cheap. Super cheap. They're like 70 cents. Now, we're going to put some up. It's not going to be ideal. This is what we'll call a hasty shelter. A lot of the things that we talk about are hasty because we're just doing it for psychological and to have something to cover from the elements, especially if right now it was raining and we need to get out of the elements, okay? It's not going to be ideal. It might not even be spacious or comfortable, but it'll work. Notice what I did, by the way? The trees we brought, some of them weren't tall enough to reach the rope that we had. So keep in mind when you make your cross beam with your lashings, try to take a look and say, you know what, I'm not going to make this super high. I don't need my shelter to be, you know, double overhead vaulted ceilings. All right? Just enough for me to get under there and have some space that I can get the rain off me. This is by no means something where you're going to lounge. All right? Work with, and you can actually start lining them out and braiding the leaves as you go down, interlocking them, and you'll be surprised how it'll keep raining.
Get him. You're gonna like this. You look very comfortable in there, bro.
using the greenery is way better. This is just an example, all right? They'll interweave better. If we use these dark ones, they're dead, obviously. As we try to interweave them, they're just gonna, great. Not only that, this is what a huge fire hazard.
Want some more bedding, man?
This you can actually shove under a little bit if you want, do whatever. Put more palm fronds with weight, put some more paracord down around it, tie it all together.
If you're trying to get saved, which you guys might not be, but if you're trying to get saved,
what's the number one most contrasting color in the Everglades from the sky?
Orange.
Negative. White.
White?
White is the most contrasting color. If you were to, this will reflect white, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. If we put a large white piece, orange, you would think also orange will stick up. But personally, from flying over the Everglades for so many years, going back and forth to Naples on aircraft, and sometimes we help out with search and rescue, white really sticks out. Like white. I'm not talking about beige.
Bright white.
Bright white.
Maybe I gotta do this for another.
No, have it in there.
build a second
Build
story.
it in there. We're making the addition. We'll put it on the back to see the patio. Now, also, keep in mind, if you look back there to these trees over here, see these saplings that are like 3 or 4 close together?
Yeah.
If we get lashings and we make with 3 trees, we combine a triangular lashing big enough to cover with these and then lean off there, you have a higher elevation. We would get some paracord, obviously, throw it around, you know, to hold it in place. This tear is pretty easy, you know, tie it around there. Maybe put it under one layer, there you go. Again, hasty, but keep in mind, hasty with 12 people, took us 13 minutes to actually get it built. Took us 8 minutes to find the material. And we were like, oh, it's hot, it's tiring. And look what we got. It's not the best in the world, but it's something that'll help us out. All right? It'll work. But look how much energy it'll expend. You don't want to overwhelm the weight either if you're using a rope as a lashing, as a cross. If you guys have any questions, again, for the 5 millionth time, and I hate to reiterate, but I teach, this is what I do. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. This is your time, okay? And, you know, this is very rudimentary. By no means do we expect you or want you to tell your significant others or your elderly family members, hey, I'm ready to go out tomorrow. Sunday morning for Mother's Day, I'm taking you out to the mangroves off Elliott Key and we're going to survive. Negative. I hope I don't get hit with a machete. Yeah. When we're going to light a fire for survival, a couple of reasons. We can use it to cook, we can use it to keep us warm, we can use it to keep animals away. When we light a fire, we're increasing our safety at night specifically by quite a bit. So you can carry anything you want. What we recommend and what we used to carry on our PFDs, with the personal flotation devices in the helicopter, is dryer lint. Dryer lint. Everybody knows your dryer has a filter. Right? This is very dangerous to let build up in your dryer. And you'll see how flammable this is in a minute. Alright? Get some oxygen. Let it start going. You see that it's going, use some more of your dryer lint to get more of a flame. Remember, fire needs oxygen to burn.
Can you talk about the triangle?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, you need, I don't know if you guys know this, but to have fire, to be able to sustain fire, you need 3 things. Does everybody know what they are? You need oxygen, heat, and then a fuel.
Exactly. The tetrahedral.
You take any of those 3 things out of the equation, and your fire's gone. So you take the oxygen out, your fire's gone. If you take the fuel out, your fire is gone. Or if you take the heat out by putting water, obviously your fire's gone. So you need all 3. One of the biggest mistakes people make when starting a fire is they put everything really clumped together, and you're removing the oxygen from the center, and you're not going to catch, the fire's not going to catch it. So you want to let everything loose and then eventually build on it. Some of your best tinder that you have around here.
Right here at the base of all your trees.
This stuff. Find this.
It's pretty dry in bed.
We can now with this, what we'll call this, they call this a knot. It's gonna be on the bottom. We probably try to get a bigger one. And as it superheats, it's gonna smolder. And we can put other pieces of wood across it, like that, and build on it. And oxygen will go through, and as it heats up and dries, it'll start to burn and carbonize. As it carbonizes, it'll produce heat and flame.
You know, one thing about fires is once you start your fire, you're gonna have to. He talked a little bit about this. You're gonna have to maintain it. So realistically, you know, if you really need your fire and you don't want it to go out, you're gonna have to have plenty of wood ready, or at least know where it's at. The other thing is conserving energy. If you don't need to build your fire at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, don't build it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You know what I'm saying? Build it, but don't start it so you have to maintain it.
Set it up.
Set it up, get it ready, and then when you have to turn it on, once you turn it on, now you got to keep it.
Yeah, just keep in mind where it is you're going to build it. I have my shelter over there. Do I really want to put my fire over here? Not a feasible idea. It's not a good idea. So I want to get it somewhere near where it's going to protect me. It's going to give me some smoke for the mosquitoes. It's not going to protect me from any other wildlife, and it's going to give me that sense of comfort. Okay, so clear out a nice area. This was a hasty area. I wouldn't make this a sustainable fire. All right, you want to clear it out. You don't want to find yourself falling asleep. All right, if you find some live wood, set up the wood around it. Make yourself a little containment area, rocks.
Yeah, or clear it, dirt.
Yeah,
Clear
bound
really
it up.
good.
Make yourself a nice flat area that you don't have to worry about. You know, setting up in box formation or teepee, maintaining the fire. There's not a lot of science there.
And in the 2-day advanced course, we will go over some primitive fire. So that's a different story altogether.
Yeah, that's a lot of calories, a lot of patience. All right.
Everybody good with this?
Yeah.
Now you got a chance to try the stuff that you have.
Yeah.
So now you know, I like this, this works for me, or maybe I have to get something else. Okay? Any questions on this?
Yeah.
We're good?
No, good.
And as it spreads through your circulatory system, it breaks down your vessels. It breaks down more of your cells. When it gets to organs that are vital, i.e., lungs, heart, etc., it breaks down those tissues and causes death. All right. The one on the bottom left, the coral snake, however, is a neurotoxin. Very dangerous. This venom paralyzes. It works on the nerve endings in the nerve system itself. So the neurotoxin, the coral snake, the lower left. All right. The coral snake is a neurotoxin. The thing about a coral snake is it's not as easy to get bit by one. All right. They need to chew on you a little bit to envenomate. They can't strike and envenomate, but the venom is very powerful and it is a neurotoxin. So as the toxin goes through your system with a very short amount of time, it'll paralyze muscles. More importantly, it'll paralyze your diaphragm. If your diaphragm is paralyzed, what happens?
Respiratory.
You stop breathing. All right? It can happen rather quickly. Now this guy on the bottom left, the scarlet king snake, is totally harmless. The reason they put him on here is because he looks a lot like the coral snake. The rule of thumb is red touches yellow, kill a fellow. See the red and yellow rings, how they touch? That's how you know it's a coral snake. If red touches black, like in the scarlet snake, venom lack. There's no venom to it. Rule of thumb, however, if you see a snake on the ground, leave it alone. There's no need to go, hey, let me see, is that red touch yellow, kill a fellow? That's red, yellow, black. I'm out. Now, if it happens to be on your stuff, and you say, oh, red touches black, oh, that's a scarlet snake, I can mess with it a little bit, I'm not too worried. As opposed to being a coral snake, let me just let it do what it's going to do, watch it get off my gear, maybe push your gear a little bit, let it get off, don't go messing with it. Right? A rattlesnake will let you know what's going on. A little bit of venom goes a long way, and that's not in the good sense. You don't have to have a major envenomation to have serious problems. All right? So a good thing, if you do get hit, there's a couple things on you for treatment. There's not much you can do without any venom, right? But remain calm. Do not put ice on the area because that's going to constrict the vessels and push it back further into your circulation. All right? Don't elevate the extremity. Keep it below the level of the heart. All right? A lot of people think, oh, let's cut it. By cutting the area, you're gonna exacerbate the body's inflammatory response. What does that mean? I've made more damage to that area. My body's gonna flood that area with all sorts of proteins and blood flow and white cells, increase circulation to that area, and increase envenomation. All right. Tourniquets, it says do not apply tourniquet because you could hinder that limb. But I would say in the event of a real bit of envenomation, and you're real far out there, it might be something to consider. But that's a decision you have to make in your situation, whatever situation that is. All right? Any questions?
Keep in mind that snakes are cold-blooded animals. So while we've been out here all day, just about at least half a day, and we haven't seen one snake. Okay. A lot of people think I'm going to go out to the Everglades and there's going to be snakes everywhere. Well, that's not the case. I've been hunting out here for a lot of years. Very rarely do I see a snake. Like I told you earlier, we've been to snakes in areas like that where it's moist, where it's dark. They tend to spend the daytime in that area, and then they'll come out and they'll catch the sun to try to energize themselves.
So first aid. When we come up on a situation, the very first thing you want to address are life threats. And what do I mean by life threats? What are life threats?
Bleeding.
Bleeding? What kind of bleeding? So if I come up to a guy who's bleeding out of his mouth.
Oh no, I'm parallel.
Arterial. If I come up to a guy who's laying on the ground and he's just spewing blood out of his leg, pumping bright red, it seems to be going out of pattern.
It's no bueno.
Like a heartbeat, that's a bad situation. I'm going to want to address that before I address an airway. Because theoretically, if I come up to a patient and there's no obvious life threat, what I want to take care of in order is your ABCs. Your airway, your breathing, and your circulation. Okay? When I mean airway, I mean, does he have one? Is his mouth open? Is he able to take a breath if he's able to breathe? So sometimes you might find someone that's got their head in a certain position, you know, they're not able to take a breath because they're unconscious. Straightening out their head and keeping their airway in line is incredibly important. All right? So, if I come up to someone and I see immediate life-threatening injury, you know, for example, we're out here, we've set up this situation, like for some of you guys that are out here training for the purpose of some sort of event that you need to come out here and survive. If someone comes out here and tries to take your belongings, your equipment, your supplies, right, and you get into some sort of interaction, an interchange of gunfire, one of you gets injured. You suppress the shooter, your threat has been neutralized, and now you need to address your partner or yourself. The very first thing I'm going to look for is obvious life threats. Where is he hit? Is he hit in the arm, leg, arm, chest, etc.? If so, I want to address those life threats first. Okay? So let's say he's hit in the arm, right? Your partner's down, he's hit in the arm. He's got blood pumping out of his arm. How are we going to address that? What can we do?
Direct pressure.
Direct pressure comes first. Right? Let me get some gauze, a t-shirt, something clean as possible. Put direct pressure. If it's an arterial wound in nature, that's not going to help. Right? So let's say you put direct pressure on it, it's still coming through your fingers. Through your fingers. What's the next thing we can do? Elevation. You know, if it's here, let's try to elevate it above the size, the level of the heart. Let gravity help. Still with direct pressure, you still got it pumping through. The next thing we can do is a pressure point. Where is a pressure point for this kind of artery? Where do you think it would be? The brachial artery, right between your bicep and your tricep. Right on here. Put some serious pressure on that. Okay, if that is what stops the bleeding, more than likely when you release that pressure point, it's going to continue bleeding. So you might have to apply what we call a tourniquet. Right?
Now, several years ago, they used to tell you, never apply a tourniquet. Now that mindset has changed, like everything else. The mindset has changed because when you apply a tourniquet, you're going to cut circulation to that arm, that limb, wherever it might be. So in an extended period of time, losing circulation to that arm can mean you might lose that arm. Okay? So that's secondary to you bleeding out right then and there. So that's where the mindset is now, you know what? If they're going to bleed out, let's apply a tourniquet rather than who cares about the arm later. Yes.
Hasn't that train of thought like come full circle since the 70s?
Yes.
Because if
Absolutely.
I remember correctly, it was tourniquets all the way, whatever, back in the war.
Vietnam.
And then in the 80s and 90s.
For whatever reason, they came up with saying, oh no tourniquet.
And now we're back to tourniquets again. Yeah.
What's the problem with why? So you guys understand why if we put a tourniquet on a victim, what's the disadvantage? I've been shot here, right? I had an arterial bleed. I've tried direct pressure, elevation, pressure point, nothing. I apply my tourniquet, right? Boom, self-application of the tourniquet. I secure it. Boom, stop bleeding. All right. Now, all these muscles down here are being cut off from what? Oxygen. What happens when you go running? What do you feel in your leg muscles? How do you run?
Oxygen and blood flow.
Burning. You're going to build up lactic acid now. Your muscles have gone into what's called an anaerobic metabolism. There's no oxygen. So the byproduct of that is lactic acid. So So now you start building lactic acid. If I were to remove this tourniquet from that patient, boom, what's going to flood my bloodstream?
Lactic acid.
Lactic acid is going to go into my heart, destroy cardiac cells, release potassium. Potassium stops your heart. So once you put this on, that's it, game on. That stays on. All right. This is a cat.
Forget about everything else.
This is a cat. They're about $39. All right. It's called the Combat Application Tourniquet System. All right, and it's designed to be put on an extremity, velcro it down, and then with this thing called the windlass, we turn until the bleeding stops, and we secure it in this windlass hold right here, just like that. All right, and we're going to do that today. All right, so now I've addressed the life threat. I've addressed the bleeding, right? My partner got shot in the arm. I've addressed the life threat, the initial life threat. What's the next thing I need to do?
Go back to the original.
How did that round come into him? Was he taking the round sideways, so it went in here? Has it gone into his chest? If so, we have a serious problem. All right, I'm not going to sit here and start trying to teach you guys how to do chest seals and stuff. It's above your scope for some of you, for most of you. So, you know, it is what it is. There's just certain injuries that are not going to be compatible for this situation. But once I have that injury there, and I've applied the tourniquet, my tourniquet's on, I've applied it, I've taken this life threat and taken care of it. Do I have any more injuries? Check my patient. Back, sides, legs, while he's laying down, turn him over. Are you hit anywhere else? Can you talk to me? Yeah, I got a real bad pain in my lower back. Flip him over, take a look. Does he have another hole and an exit and entrance that we didn't see? All right? When a round comes in at you, especially at close range, what is that round going to carry with it? Heat. It can cauterize on the way in. All right? So you might not be bleeding. So take care of those life threats. All right, especially at close range. Depending on a small caliber, you might not see blood. All right. So life threats are taken care of. What are the next priorities? A, B, C. Airway, breathing, circulation. All right. He took one in the arm. He's down on the ground. I've taken care of the life threats. Is he breathing now? Does he have an airway? Let's straighten out his head. Straighten out his neck. Is he breathing adequately? Yes. He is? Good. We leave it alone. What's his pulse like? Does he have one? If he doesn't, what do we need to do? No pulse.
Do you guys know where to check pulses?
Where do we check pulses on an unconscious patient? Carotid.
It's the last one to lose a
All right.
pulse.
However, if you have a situation like we're out here, shot, no pulse, and CPR needs to be done, you know, you're not going to have help coming out here right away. What we do is wherever the injury is, we open it just like this. Let's say it's open. I'm not going to open it and put it on. We put it right on the injury, and we tape it on 3 sides. The reason being, when I take a breath, yeah, I'll leak from the inside, but air can't get in because of that petroleum jelly and that gauze. When I exhale and there's positive pressure in my chest, air can't come out because I only taped it on 3 sides and air can escape. So I decrease by half the amount of air that's going to build up in my chest. All right? This is a very inexpensive thing to carry. You can buy a box of these for like nothing. All right? And you can put it on, boom, tape it on 3 sides, and it'll extend the amount of time of your victim to get to help. The way they'll fix that is they'll put a chest tube in, relieve that gas, relieve that air, and let the lung re-expand. Obviously, we're not going to be doing that out here. All right. Bandaging. With that ACE bandage that we have there and some 4x4 gauze, any injury, you can just apply that gauze on and just wrap ACE bandage around that gauze for injury. Put a little pressure. Lacerations, any type of injury. Basic bandaging is not anything we're going to get into now. It's a basic concept we've learned, we learned since we were kids, wrap stuff up when we're hurt. All right? Any questions on that?
If you go on somebody and you see that he has the sucking chest wound, he's got a wound to his chest, like you said earlier, concentrate on that, that's important, but also check to see if he's got an exit wound. A lot of times they will. So you came over here, you saw he had this wound right here in his chest, you noticed that, that he's got a chest wound, you took care of that chest wound and you're like, I took care of it, and he's got a hole in his back. So turn him over, check, make sure you know that there's no exit wound, and if there is, you got to take care of that also.
A little bit about splinting. Splinting is what?
Immobilizing
That's all it is. Immobilizing a fractured limb in order to keep it from any further injury or from making any more internal damage to the area. So for splinting, a couple of things we're going to go over. Very basic. If you have an angulated fracture, what does that mean?
Kind of clean
My
bite.
arm or my leg are in a position where it shouldn't be in. The wrong direction. All right? We want to check if there's any pulse beyond that. So if I have a broken arm, my arm is facing this way, and I check for a pulse on that patient, and there's no pulse, the skin is turning pale, there's no sensation, we can make one attempt to inline that. Pull some traction and put it in the normal, it's not going to be fun, all right? But once we align it, we should restore circulation, and then we can get a piece of wood, stick, and have it support the fracture and wrap. The good thing is after we wrap, we need to make sure we haven't occluded any more circulation, so we want to make sure there's feeling and sensation beyond it. All right? If we have a broken joint, for example, he broke his elbow and it's angulated in a weird direction, we usually don't want to fix joints. We'll let them do that at the hospital. What we'll do is we'll splint it in place. So if it's cracked this way, I'm going to put a splint here and a splint here and wrap the joint in place. If I try to fix that joint, I might capture some blood vessels in there or some nerve endings and do more damage. Understand? Out here, there's tons of sticks that we can use to help for splinting. You know, for a leg fracture, we can use 2 splints, wrap, keep them stable, elevate the extremity, reduce the swelling. Very basic concepts. After that, ABC, airway, breathing, and circulation. All right, in that order. Airway is very important. I want to maintain an airway. I want to open and increase his air intake. And breathing, if he's not breathing, we'll breathe for him, right? And that's, you know, further along if you take CPR, etc. You can go over that. And then circulation, does he have a pulse? But for survival skills, what we want to worry about is immediate life threats and address those. And the only life threat that we can address out here is what? Bleeding. External bleeding.